Join the moving train as Lower Niger Congress presents Dialogue Series on National Conference. As Nigerians go into a grand renegotiation of their union after 100 years of amalgamation, these interviews illuminate the main issues around the National Conference, both in content and procedures, as well as options for reconstruction, especially from the perspective of ethnic nationalities of Eastern Nigeria. Lower Niger Congress is the joint platform by which the ethnic nationalities of the former Eastern region and Midwestern region of Nigeria seek to aggregate, federate, and to relate as a bloc in working out new constitutional arrangements with the rest of Nigeria. Lower Niger Congress is the co-convener of the movement for New Nigeria. The new nation called Nigeria should be an estate of our great-grandfather, Usman Dan Fodio. We must ruthlessly prevent a change of power. We use the minorities of the North as a willing tool and the South as the conquered territory, and never allow them to rule over us, and never allow them to have control over their future. Sir Ahmad Bello, Parrot Newspaper, October 12, 1960. For inquiries, call us on 0810-056-9448-9 or 0803-720-9690 or 0803-724-9063. Visit our website on www.lowernigercongress.org or email us on info@lowernigercongress.com. Lower Niger Congress, craving for change.
My name is Livingston Richie, and first of all I want to welcome you to this press panel. We are here this morning to address the press on very salient issues of general importance. If I may borrow the language of those who are using it, we are gathered here for the purposes of necessity. And leading the team in this press brief is Tony Nnadi. Tony Nnadi is the National Secretary of the Lower Niger Congress. And next to him is Mr. Anderson Hart, an official of the Lower Niger Congress. Next to him is Comrade Innocent Okocha. Comrade Innocent Okocha is also an official of the Lower Niger Congress. And next to Innocent Okocha is Comrade Dadi Chukwu. These are all officials of the Lower Niger Congress. And also an official of the Lower Niger Congress. And we also have Comrade Wonobi, Miniku Samuel rather, also of the Lower Niger Congress. I am Livingston Wechi, the provincial coordinator of the Lower Niger Congress. Thank you. You're welcome.
It may well be better to dissolve the union other than waiting for when it will break up by itself like Yugoslavia did. And by way of introduction, I'm a lawyer, and I was one of the conveners, one of the principal conveners of the Gronaco conference, in which Chief Nohoro and Wole Soyinka were able to bring the ethnic nationalities together to discuss the way we could continue as a union. It took us so much of time and energy to drive through. I was secretary of the Harmonization Committee that dealt with all the delegations in terms of their memoranda. I was in the committee that worked out the questions we needed to answer in the conference. And it took us 1 year and a half. We had 164 ethnic delegations in attendance. The United States and the European Union sent observer missions to that conference. But the government of the day, led by Olusegun Obasanjo, felt, who are these people to discuss their future? And they ignored it. We went on to the point where we were able to produce what you now all know as the Pronaco Constitution. Our attempt at that time was to take Nigeria back to federalism through a negotiated means. And in that conference, we were successful in asking the question, do we really want to continue in this union? There were a lot of grudges, because at that time, you remember, people were already carrying arms all over the place. We went round and we were able to persuade them to put their arms aside and come to discuss with the rest of the country. We were able to bring Asari Dokubo and his group of the time, which later became men. We were able to bring Ghanaian Dance and his OBC. We were able to bring even those in the north who were already making trouble. We were able to bring Masob and all of them. We persuaded them at great risk to our personal self to say, come first, discuss with the rest of the country. If they reject what you are asking for, then you can go and do whatever else you did fit, so that you can avoid bloodshed, because we have been through it before. After that entire exercise and the draft constitution that came from it, those who say we must remain their slaves say it cannot be discussed, it cannot be brought to the fore. They carried on with the 1999 constitution, which is the imposition by arms of those who felt they have conquered us for all time. Those who say they are born to rule us. And we are saying that if after all the efforts to get these things sorted out under a roof, we are not able to find common ground, and we even have a new situation now in which 12 states of the far north introduced Sharia in year 2000. Their state assemblies passed the laws, they started implementing it, their governors signed the laws into the bill into law, and they started implementing it. Later, a few years after, Boko Haram came to enforce the Sharia on the rest of the community. And if we remember, after the attack of Kano, Boko Haram issued an elaborate statement in which they explained to the whole world why they were fighting. And if you recall, they said that they reject democracy, that they reject constitutionalism, and that they want the enthronement of Sharia law in their area. In making that demand, they were opting out of the democracy, which brings all of us together in Nigeria. They were opting out from the constitution that binds all of us, because Sharia is mutually exclusive with constitutionalism and democracy. And we did not hear any serious complaints from those who are from those 12 states at the time the state government were introducing the Sharia. By implication, I am not able to function from Sokoto, I am not able to function from Kano, I am not able to function from Maiduguri because of the prevalence of Sharia law in those places. So in addition to all the other complaints we had, they made the Union of Nigeria impossible from that date in year 2000. We were still willing to reach out to them and explain to them the need to put all of that aside, because in all the other countries of the world where such issues had happened, there was no other way to proceed than to divide up the country. That was how Pakistan was cut out from India. That was how when Yugoslavia was falling apart, you saw all of what happened in the place. Nobody has been able to solve the kind of religious strife that such politics introduced. And we went on to do our best to persuade them, but they bluntly refused. And when it turned out that elections were to happen in 2011, at the time late President Yaradua passed on, the constitution that settled what should have happened was ignored, and it became a matter of you cannot be president to Jonathan, who was vice president. And they carried it to the point where the country was almost without government for 4 months. Eventually, we had to pull out people to come to demonstrate. We were going to march on the villa. We had to get Shoyinka and Janakenade and Adnakana, people like that, to come and join in the march to compel them to apply the constitution. We also made it clear to them at the time that if the constitution was not good enough to settle the matter of who became president after Yar'Adua, that we will not accept any other part of the constitution, including the states that they had imposed that decree all over the years, including the quota system, including the 68 item exclusively, that make it impossible for any one of us to take charge of our electricity or infrastructure or security. The background to the situation we're dealing with started right in 1914 when the British overran several kingdoms and territories and wedged it together and called it Nigeria. From that time, it was not our project, and we have lived with it to our great consolation and detriment for 100 years. Unfortunately, for those who want to keep Nigeria, who say we cannot discuss the union of Nigeria, the amalgamation has a lifespan of 100 years. That 100 years came to the full circle in the midnight of 31st December 2013. And we are lucky to have in our hands the documents by which Lugard and Co. put us in this commotion. They are here and you are going to have your copies. Those documents will be before the court because we want the whole world to see the reason why we are going to insist on our right to self-determination at this time. We were lucky to have a president who allowed the statesman in him to overtake the politician that would have normally wanted to continue in power for much longer time. His party is in power. If elections were to happen today, I don't see how all these ragtag alliances are going to dislodge them. But the president left all of that, listening to the cry of the people that have been on almost without ceasing since 1967. When Nigeria first collapsed and they went to Aburi to agree on how to refloat Nigeria. And some people came back from that conference, abandoned the agreement, and went on to levy a war that consumed 3.5 million from this portion of the map. We are pleased with all the consequences of it, including the complete confiscation and seizure of our assets. And at the time we were working out what our intervention should be. Are we to go to war again? Are we to go, what do we have to find out exactly what happened? From what we saw in the Lugard document, it became clear to us that it was intended to create a master-servant relationship from the first day, exactly like the apartheid situation that happened to the blacks in South Africa. The only difference between we and South Africa is that their own started in 1910, our own started in 1914. The minority white population that tormented them were Boers. What we have here are Fulani supported by their British sponsors. But what they succeeded in doing was to take the entire length and breadth of the land and all of these assets into a country that we were never to discuss. And it has been an imposition from that date to date. And if you thought they did not know what they were doing, in the week of independence, I want you to pay particular attention to this because we have the video of it to show those of you who want to see it. In the week of independence, while the rest of us were drinking champagne, hoping that the British were going away, Ahmadu Bello was celebrating a totally different thing. Ahmadu Bello was telling his listeners, and I quote him now, he says, the new nation called Nigeria must be an estate of our great-grandfather Osman Danfodio. All the decrees by which the states were created, which has now created a new majority from a minority population that has given us 36 states in which those we outnumber, head for head, now hold more seats in the National Assembly. The assets of oil and gas, which come to about 3 million barrels of crude oil every day, from which Nigeria earns close to $250 million every single day, is detained from the owner because it's shared in that sitting in Abuja. All of how we do with our daily lives, including electricity and security and infrastructure, are taken away on a list, exclusive list that is inside the Constitution here, in which we cannot do any of those things for ourselves, except Abuja does it and gives to us. We were all here when Rivers State built electricity that should have been for the use of its residents. And it took forever to admit it into the national grid, and Rivers State has to be begging to be allowed to use to take from the electricity, because it has to go under the constitution. It has to go into the national grid for distribution as the center may sleep. And all of those who have been junketed from one corner of the world to the other, talking about how they bring investors to come to put money in our infrastructure, our constitution makes it impossible for any investor that is honest to take 5 billion or 10 billion of other people's money to come to put in a situation where the constitution does not allow the people he's contracting with to deal with the subject. Meaning that if the government in Abuja changes, if the government changes, the next person can come and say, I don't know what they're talking about. That is why we will remain in our darkness. You can see we are here now without electricity. For a country that has coal, for a country that has oil and gas, that has water resources, that all of 1 million ways of generating electricity, we are still talking about 5,000 megawatts and 3,000 megawatts that can become 7 or 10. South Africa, that is 1/3 of our size, is running on 48,000 megawatts of electricity. 90% of that comes from coal. Coal is lying idle in eastern Nigeria. The constitution says we cannot touch it. The government of eastern Nigeria built a power station in Oji River that by now would have been powering the whole country if we chose to expand the plant. But it was shut down over 35 years ago by those who do not want electricity for us. And as it is with electricity, so it is with roads, so it is with airports, so it is with seaports, so it is with so many other things, so it is with security. What is there in running a police service? The whole world over, the way to do is you know yourself in your community. A small community can have its own police service. The state will have its own police service. At the center, you are not talking about just a little collaboration in case there's a cross-border situation. How can somebody sit in Abuja and say it's Inspector General of Police for a country, a territory like Nigeria? How can he know who steals goods in Borokere? He will not know. The constable is going to send was trained in Meduguri. The man does not understand the language of the locals. He comes here, he's totally confused. What is law in the place where he's coming from is against the law in the place where he has come to serve. For instance, under the penal code, in the Islamic setting, a husband has the right to chastise the wife. You can flog your wife, and the police, will have to assist such a husband if the wife is refusing to be chastised. Then here, if you as much as even try to lay a small trap, you will be committing an offense for which you can be in prison. So tell me what that young policeman who does not know where the one law stops and where the other starts is going to do in 774 local government areas where the rules continue to vary as it goes. But he's wearing one uniform, serving under one IG, who has to give out the conference and the modalities that have been rolled out. On the matter of the election, that Jega and his INEC, in the midst of an unsettled constitutional arrangement, rolled out the election timetable as if to tell the rest of us to go to hell, and that the election will happen in 2015. We are looking at all of it against the background of the written intention of the president at the time he inaugurated the committee that went round to ask how people wanted to go about their discussion. I brought that written speech for us to see that the president was very explicit in the instruction he gave to the committee. Apart from the 7 point terms of preference, which all of you already have, the president was clear at the time he was inaugurating it that the business for the conference will be to genuinely, he said it's a sincere and fundamental undertaking aimed at, that is the conference, aimed at realistically examining and genuinely resolving long-standing impediments to our cohesion. That cohesion was undermined, and harmonious development as a truly united nation. If we go by this, it is clear that the president is saying those things that stand the way of our becoming one nation from being one country that was weighed together by force should be put on the table and genuinely
examined and resolved. Therefore, the matter of no-go area is the creation of those who are working for the opposition alliance. The opposition alliance wants election by all means. They want to rubbish the conference. You saw what Oshomole did in Benin when people who were eager to discuss their future came and he was telling them to their faces that they were madmen, that the president was confused and didn't know what to do. And all of them are working hard to conduct one more election so that they can take the president away and carry on with the constitution that enslaves the rest of us. In that alliance, unfortunately, we have seen that some of our own brothers who ought to have known better are not looking at the deeper issues and they are going as if we have a democracy. Unless the definition of democracy will change, we do not have a democracy in Nigeria. Why? Because democracy has 3 legs, of which if you don't solve one leg, you cannot get to the second leg. Government of the people, by the people, for the people, translating to the people making the supreme rule. That is the constitution. That is it's like a building. The foundation is set, you now put the walls, and then you put the roof. In that order, if you try to do any other thing, you will never be able to build a house. The house of Nigeria was built from the roof, and that is why it is not standing today. Now, we the people were alleged to have made a constitution which we did not do, because this is the sole title document by which Nigeria is controlling the entire territory. And we went to court in furtherance of what we were trying to do to resolve the matter peacefully. We went to court in the year 2007 to tell the whole world that Nigeria's title document is a forgery, because Absalom Abaka, that this is decree number 20 of 1999, wrote the story of how he came about the decree inside the document. You see printed here. He said he formed a constitution coordinating committee that went round and came back to him at PRC and that they added and subtracted and signed the rest into law to be called the 1999 Constitution. He now comes inside here to lie that we, the people of Nigeria, having firmly and solemnly resolved to live in unity, do hereby make and give unto ourselves the following constitution. It is also in that preamble that you see the word indivisibility and the indissolubility. He is by that preamble alleging that the Shekiri, the Yoruba, have sat down and decided to submit their land and their people into an enterprise called Nigeria to be managed as contained in the Constitution. All of that is a lie, and in all my 23 years as a lawyer, I do not know of any other definition of forgery than that classical case, in which Absalom Abaka did something and say we the people did. Now, it is within the context of that falsehood that you have these states that are embedded here. If they were not created in 1999, it is within the context of that falsehood that you have the 68 items exclusively. It is within the context of that falsehood that you have the voter system that prefer mediocrity to merit. It is within that context that the oil and gas assets of the Niger Delta is detained by the conspiracy of the rest of the country. It is within that context that the internal security arrangement of Yoruba land is detained away from Yoruba, for which the OPC is fighting. It is within that context that those Biafra and Masop was asking how come we are now called Nigeria without any discussion. It is within the context of that falsehood. Even the Boko Haram you all are seeing today, the people are simply saying they are raising a constitutional question. They are simply saying that they were living in their Sharia world before Nigeria came with its democracy. And this, what they are seeing is what the democracy can bring, that they no longer want it. If you do not go to sit down with them to address those grievances, you are going to continue to have the kind of thing you have, and they will instead righteous indignation continue to fight with the best of their ability. And therefore, we are saying today that the entire length and breadth of our suffering are captured in a document that was imposed, just like the apartheid constitution of South Africa was the basis of the society that was upside down, until such a time after the engagement with ANC and other organizations. Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Oliver Tambo, they all said to themselves that they will not do any business under that constitution. They mobilized their people. It took a long time before the people came to understand what they were saying and joined them. they now put up such a fight that compelled the sitting government of President de Klerk in 1990 to make a proclamation that the apartheid constitution will no longer carry the South African society. Therefore, they suspended all elections and went into discussing a new constitutional arrangement. It took them 5 years. The name of the conference is called Codet. In 1994, they were able to work out something that will replace the apartheid constitution. The bus stop South Africa arrived in 1990 is the exact bus stop Nigeria has arrived now. There is no other way to maneuver. And the president, seeing that that was the situation, was courageous enough to do what his predecessors had been unable to do, to call a meeting of the people to go and rework this document peacefully. Inside that same speech, the president acknowledged that there is a government in place, there is a constitution in place, but that the matter at hand go beyond the mandate of the constitution or even the government, and therefore that the country will have to recourse to the sovereign authority of the people. If you allow me to read again, it's on page 13 of that printed speech, where having acknowledged that there was democracy and a national assembly, that the issue will require the supreme sovereign authority of the people to resolve. So that those who are talking about taking the finished product to National Assembly are actually daring the rest of us and daring the collectivity of the sovereign people of Nigeria. And therefore, he said that sovereignty continues to be with the people even as that is for all time. He said there's no point, there's no time when the government will become the holders of that sovereignty. So between the matter of cohesion that he talks about, meaning that we have to discuss our oneness, our unity, that's the first question we must answer. And the matter of sovereignty, who takes the final decision after all the discussion? The president was quite clear. But when you begin to see what Lamido Sanusi was throwing into the mix, the letter, the 18-page letter for Obasanjo, in which he was rubbishing the conference, rubbishing the president, Obasanjo chose the week the world was going to gather in South Africa to roll out falsehood that he knows to be false, and visitors in South Africa at the gathering of world leaders. If you remove the letterhead and the signature portion, what you will find in that whole 18 pages is articles of impeachment. Within 24 hours of releasing the documents in South Africa, the APC element, the only opposition element in the National Assembly in Abuja, called for impeachment. Everybody happened on what was said in the lecture. And Lamido Sanusi, the governor of Central Bank, the outside world should be looking up to the governor of the Central Bank of the country as one source of correct information. Lamido Sanusi writes a letter that is dated 4th of December. Obasanjo's letter is dated 2nd of December. Then somehow, Obasanjo had in his letter the content of Lamido's letter, in which he was alleging that $49 billion, which Nigeria did not earn in that year, was missing. A few days after, he said he was misled, after the whole world that he told. Has he gone back to tell them he was lying? No. Not quite how many, 2 months after then, he's talking about another $20 billion that was stolen from kerosene fund. How much of kerosene do we do to now have $20 billion that could be stolen? They are working on a script. They are working on a script to keep Nigeria the union of master and servant. They are working on a script of the opposition that wants election by all means. But what happened in 1964 will not be allowed to happen again. We all recall that in 1962, under this same type of engagement that is going on in Rivers State today between the federal government and the state, the regional government of Western Region was in contestation with the federal government of the side in their rush to the next election as to who will prevail. They so bad the things go that by May 29, 1962, the constitution of Western Region collapsed, and in that unsettled situation, the election was already advertised for 1964. The politicians who were eager to get to power and to government house did not mind what else would be damaged for them to get there. They loaded that election on top of that unsettled constitutional situation, and the thing exploded right there. And what we got from it was a Nigeria that collapsed. When the dust was settled, 3.5 million people had been killed in the battlefield of Biafra, away from where the problem started. What we see going on in Port Harcourt today that looks like a small issue of Port Harcourt will consume the country if we don't find a way to halt it. And our own insistence at this time is that we will not allow the politicians, because they all come to less than some who was talking about the 5%. I know he knows he was not telling the truth. That all the politicians in all the parties put together do not come to 10%, he claims 25%. So we are here speaking on behalf of all of those who are neither of PDP nor APC. We will not allow the politicians to drag us into an election that will explode, because there is no outcome to the 2015 election that will not end in catastrophe. Buhari told us how blood will flow if it's prevented one more time from assuming the estate of his great-grandfather. And then we saw elements from the Niger Delta who also said that if Jonathan is intimidated out of the place, they will make the place ungovernable, that heaven will fall on top of earth. And we are coming as a third force in the middle. The people from whose ranks that blood will be extracted, the people from whose ranks no less than 10 million people will die, are now being organized to prevent the politicians from dragging us into another election that will end in bloodshed. And we are telling Jega right now that himself and all of those who sponsor him into rolling out election timetable at the time we have not discussed the constitution under which the country will be governed, that no election will be permitted. The nationalists are saying it loud and clear that no election will be permitted in the areas of those who insist on this discussion, who are seeking this discussion that they are sabotaging, because they are working together to sabotage the discussion and run into election and take away Jonathan and retain the constitution. That is their script. We will not allow that to happen. Whatever else will happen will be preferable to us than submitting ourselves to enslavement for one more round. And we are saying that Nigeria can do exactly what South Africa did in 1990 today to avoid the catastrophic road ahead. And having touched on the matter of the conference, the modalities they have rolled out is totally unacceptable. The meeting that we have been agitating for since 1967 is one in which the ethnic nationalities that can be countries of their own will discuss afresh how to recommit to the Nigerian project. Because Nigeria has become like a disputed construction site in which reporters of the people present are working to pull down the construction going on their land. It's a disputed land. And I happen to be one of those reporters that will not allow the further construction on this false architecture. If therefore they insist on going ahead with their plan to hold another election on top of this constitution, we then say that if we cannot discuss, we must disperse forthwith. And there's a United Nations instrument called United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People that was passed in 2007, under which Kosovo has moved from Serbia, under which South Sudan has moved from the rest of Sudan, for reasons not too different from what we see today. And we're saying that we will exercise that right to self-determination because it does not depend on anybody agreeing with us. We only need to go to a referendum, ask our people if that is what they want, because that's what the instrument entitles us to. And our proposal at this time is that since the matter of Sharia has now come to compound all the other problems we are talking about, unless anybody can bring a mechanism by which we are going to persuade or compel those who are doing Sharia to repent and join the rest of us in democracy, or a mechanism by which the rest of us can be compelled to embrace Sharia so that there can be peace, the union of Nigeria has been made impossible. The choices we have now really fall between allowing the thing to be done under a roof peacefully, like Czechoslovakia did, or allowing it to boil over by itself. And we will do whatever it will take to prevent it from boiling over by itself. First, by making sure that no further election is conducted. We are going to insist that while this conference is underway, all further elections will be suspended. If it takes us 2 months or 6 months or 1 year or 2 years, if we go to the memoranda of the ethnic nationalities before the committee, because they suppressed them, they suppressed those memoranda. We were in Calabar, we were in Benin, we were in Enugu, we were in Lagos, we were in all the places that the committee went to, and we have copies of what the ethnic nationalities demanded. What they wanted was a conference that would be in 2 stages. in which those who will federate will first make up their constitution. A federation is a union of constitutions, meaning that unless those constitutions that will federate are first based, you are building the house of Nigeria from the roof. Nigeria fell into this ditch we are still in when in 1966 the 5 constitutions that defined the union got toppled and replaced by one unitary constitution. And we see elements like Ben Wabweze, professor of constitutional law, now talking as if one constitution is enough for a federation, boasting about how he and Rotimi Williams wrote the constitution of 1979, which they were contacted to do by Murtala Muhammad. And we have come to the point where all of that conspiracy to keep us in bondage must be resisted. We have a majority of the people, the ethnic nationality, because what they have done now is to call a meeting of NGO. It's not the labor union or the MBA or the doctors union or retired this and that will go to discuss the future of millions of people. If we go back to the demand of ethnic nationalities before the committee, you will recall that they are very on behalf of the Yoruba, and they had a wide adoption of what they put forward. They said that the conference must answer 2 questions originally raised by Bola Ige, to say, are we to live together? Do we want to continue this union? And that is when they get a yes from that question that they will now go to the second matter of how, in terms of the conditions and terms. They also said that that first question will have to be answered at home. That is, Yoruba will lock themselves in so that they can tell themselves the truth of their experiences in Nigeria to arrive at that first answer. And as they were saying so, the Jaw in Calabar had come up with such a demand to say that they will first have to work out their relationship with all their neighbors and tie themselves into a federating unit before going to deal with the rest of the country. What they said in Calabar was adopted by the Shekiri, the Urobo, the Anam, the Efi, the Benin. That was what Oshomole jumped forward to try to destroy. And he almost met his Waterloo. And if that was the demand of the nationality, you could see that the entire southern Nigeria are together in saying that they must first work out the constitutions by which they will federate with the rest of the country. In the middle there, you see how Fulani is killing them house to house. And they also are part of this decision to rework Nigeria from the base. And what you see going on, Fulani herdsmen in bands of 5,000 overrunning all the areas in the place, killing in a manner that can no longer be reported. The people say, together with the rest of southern Nigeria, since they are not Muslims and they don't want to have Sharia operate in their area, I'm sure you've heard about Movement for New Nigeria. Lower Niger Congress is taking charge of what is going on here. The Federation of Bolivia people is taking charge of what's going on here. And Middle Belt Congress is taking charge of what is going on here. We are working out the formations in which we will exist the Nigerian Union if we cannot federate in this formation. Therefore, we are saying, concerning the modalities for the conference, that we must have 2 stages in which the constitutions that will federate are first made out, and then maybe 6 months, 8 months, 1 year down the road, we go to work out how we will make out a union of Nigeria based on those constitutions. That was how we started. Nigeria couldn't have been one country if we did not have the kind of constitution Awolowo had in his hand. If we did not have the kind of constitution that Emma had in his hand to manage the affairs of the people they were going to govern. And therefore, we are saying it loud and clear that the conference as currently advertised is an attempt to sabotage the genuine intention of President Jonathan to get the people of Nigeria to agree so that the ship of state will not wreck. We are saying that the attempt to drive us into election is the conspiracy of those who want to keep the rest of us in perpetual enslavement according to Ahmadu Bello's mission statement in 1960, which has become the current constitution. Because if you see all of those who made out the constitution, the things that now become the constitution, The 12 states that were created in 1967 had ballooned into 36 states. Then the people who did the balance of the creation, Murtala Mohammed, Ibrahim Bangida, Sani Abacha, what were the officers from the rest of the country in all the time they were doing this? So we have come to the end of our patience. We have come to where we won't take out our portion since it is no longer possible for us to discuss. For the same reason, the ANC and the rest of the blacks in South Africa insisted that they will not proceed with the apartheid constitution that enslaved them. That is the reason we are taking the steps we are taking today. And we have the United Nations instruments available to all of the sides to carry out whatever needs to be done to drive this through. We are not going to pay any attention to what the politicians say in this matter. The land belongs to the people. It is the land-owning peoples of Nigeria that we have to discuss the terms under which they submit their land. Otherwise, you'll be talking about 55 million Yoruba people here that could be a country of their own. Benin Republic is 5 million, Togo 5 million, Ghana just got to 20 million the other day. Why can't Yoruba be in charge of how to get their electricity, or how to do their police, or how to do their roads? The same thing here, we have a country of 70 million people who can really take care of their lives. And the same thing here, these three are working together to dissolve the union if we cannot discuss the terms, in full-fledged, and absolute freedom of how we will live. That's how we live it for now. Thank you very much.
And to further draw your attention, between 3 p.m. this evening and 5 p.m., Tony Nnadi will be live on Nigeria Info, just as he was yesterday. You can equally monitor the program to hear more. And if you have any questions in furtherance to issues you have raised, you may please go ahead and ask.
After hearing you, are you going to take part in the national dialogue? Are you going to take part in the national dialogue?
More than any group, we insist there's no other way to go, even now. But what we're saying is that we will not accept these modalities that have been rolled out, in which we cannot discuss the only reason why we want the conference. They say we cannot touch. Therefore, while they are rigmaroling with this one they are called, because it is not even for the ethnic nationalities to decide what they do with their future, since the amalgamation has expired and the current instrument has been defeated. We went to court to show that this is a forgery, and you don't need to wait for any court pronouncement. If somebody goes to the bank with the check you did not sign, does the bank have to go to court before they grab the person and show that he did not sign? Nigeria is cashing the value of 3 million barrels of crude oil on the basis of this forged instrument, and therefore we don't need to wait for whatever the court will say. We only went to court to show the whole world why we will insist on what we are treating on. We will eventually come to a conference if it becomes one in which ethnic nationalities are the ones to discuss, not NGO of bar association or labor association. Two, one in which the federation constitution will be made out in the region before they come to federate them later. Those two conditions must be met. If they are not met, the ethnic nationalities are going to mobilize more food to get to the point where they take their portions out of the failed Nigerian Union. Nobody is going to hold Nigeria together by force any longer, no matter how much cost they try to procure. So conference, we are all for conference, but not within these modalities that are imposed by the conspiracy of those who are slaves, or the standard colonialists.
My name is Daniel Abia, I write for Daily Independent.
What modalities you want to undertake to make your position here, implemented? What exactly are you going to do? Because I don't see the possibility of your agitation sitting on in this boardroom to be accepted by the federal government or the forces that are, in order to accept what is just put, out now. Are you going to adopt a violent means, or you still continue to sit in a conference hall like this and be talking? Because I know this country, government has never listened to those who talk. If you like shout to the rooftop, they will not listen to you, except perhaps you carry arms. So So what exactly are you going to do? Are you going to court? And if you go to court, are you sure of how to stop?
Thank you. That they are bent to discuss only what they chose to discuss and the things collapse. The difference on this occasion is that the owners of Nigeria have been mobilized. It was not for nothing that the United States saw something in 2007 and said that from what they were seeing, that the Union of Nigeria may not survive until 2015. It was not for nothing that in June 2013, the American War College in Pennsylvania, I'm sure some of you saw it. I'm going to give you copies of it, those who didn't have it. The American War College in Pennsylvania wrote an 108-page report on the matter of the unity of Nigeria to their home government, saying that from what they see, that it appears the thing is actually collapsing into 4 units, and that the reason they could make out are the same reasons that led to the war, which were not discussed, the terms of the unit, and that their home government should please go identify where their interests lie in the developing situation and where their assets lie, to work out how the successor state will be viable to retain those interests. The report is there, dated June 2013, and they are all going to have copies if you wait for it. Therefore, we are saying that what is going to happen now is that within the ambit of that United Nations instrument that entitled us to self-determination, the ethnic nationalities have been mobilized to where they will take their destinies in their hands. The right now exists, so it's not something that we have to go and beg anybody to agree with us. We only need to organize according to the formations we have seen here. And if we have the reporters of the country, you saw when the Yoruba raised their flag and their anthem almost 2 years ago, 2012. Is there anybody here who didn't see it? They have finished their own constitution, they have finished their own instruments of being one country. They have embarked on what they call the integration. If anything happens to Nigeria today, they are as well as God. And we are the only ones yet to finalize all of that in our own areas. But we have gone very far. The Ijaw, the Shekiri, the Ogoni, the Igbo, all of them are working out their individual positions in order to become part of the Federation of Lower Niger, which will then be ready to deal with the rest of the country in that commission. That is what will happen. And it takes only a referendum to finalize. Nobody is going to be allowed to introduce violence, including the politicians who want to go to Abuja and share their own, take their own share of the $250 million that Nigeria has sequestered from the owner by force of arms. It must have an end.
As you're talking, you presented the United Nations document.
Yes.
In your hand there.
Speak louder. All of you are hearing. I can't hear you.
Okay, you presented the United Nations document, and then the Lugard amalgamation this document.
Yes. The instrument by which
yes.
From
available information, it is clear that by this year it's going to be 100 years.
It's already 100 years.
Okay. And from what I heard, although I have not gone through it, they said what is written there is that the country will not separate until when it is 100 years. Now you have made it clear that you're not going to use the option of violence. Now what other ways? Because I know that if you approach a Nigerian court, definitely you're not going to have justice. Now are you going to explore that means either by going to the international court or what other ways?
The instrument, I hear you here, right, that was not there before. Before 2007, if you visited of nothing, you were called names and, labeled with the citation. But from the 12th of September 2007, the right was created by the highest authority in the United Nations that entitle you to be by yourself, except you agree with your neighbor to work it out together. What we are doing now is to undertake the processes, and it's more than 80% done as I speak. The processes by which the ethnic nationalities are going to come to the point of the referendum among themselves to say that that is what they want to do. Once they have reached that bus stop, we will then wait for that force under the sun that will come to stand the way of a determined people. They have the right to self-determination. The processes are just to make sure that all of those who are in the territory have the opportunity to say yes or no to it. And if a preponderance, you saw when South Sudan finish their own process of a referendum. So we are mobilizing, and those who are going to vote are already waiting for how to conclude the matter, irrespective of what the conference, is going to do. If the conference does not meet their demands in terms of the minimum conditions under which they can remain here, they are going to conclude that process. And they said so before. I'm going to show you the memoranda of the nationalities, about 3/4 of them. Because what the Promo Committee did was to suppress what the nationalities said and then put up their own report. So we're going with the things are here with us. The people say that if that does not happen, they will leave the union. And we are working out the processes that will culminate in a referendum that does not depend on those who are enslaving. They will take that referendum and go their way. It's just a matter of organizing properly. And I can assure you that 80% of the tax has been done. It's not for nothing. I keep pointing at it. You know the US is not an ideal country. It's not for nothing that they are raising all these, alarms and alarms. Only the people who are here still talking about election is basically under this constitution. I'm sorry for anybody who will invest any energy in that because it will not happen.
My name is Wale Williams. I'm the publisher of the magazine. I want to call your attention to the questions I've seen so far.
Yes.
And I'm asking that in view of what you are doing,
yes.
The central problem that is happening to other agitation may possibly happen today because of the absence or inadequacy of civil consciousness in this section. The level of illiteracy is very huge and scary. How do you intend to enlighten or achieve civil consciousness in the bigger picture so that your visions, because I will not be able to fight if I don't understand, or I won't sit at home when there's need for me to see if I don't know the details of what the agitations are.
Thank you. Yes. 1, 2, 3, or 4 from Movement for New Nigeria. Did anyone see anyone bulletin? On national, we use 4 newspapers to advertise all of this. Did you see? We have all of you here present who have to go with one set of the 4 bulletins. All of what I'm talking about are printed here. Advertised in National Daily, Guardian, These Days, Vanguard, and some. Now, they are all running on the internet. If you have your telephone here and you go to YouTube, I'll give you 4 titles. One of it is already on the flyer you have, who owns about that. We've gone everywhere Nigerians can be found to tell them. We've gone to the marketplaces. The radio is a market. The area, the obey, the my too. The only people who are not going to pay attention to are the politicians who are determined to keep the enslavement of the rest of the people. The reason we call you here today is to be the intermediary between us and the people. You may choose to continue to report who is getting the upper hand in the journey to 2015 election. You may also choose to share what we are going to take away from here today with the masses of people. We have no means of going house to house to them. The internet is there. Our people overseas, that's why the Americans are so far ahead of the rest of the politicians. They don't even go to listen to find out what is going on. That is why the people outside the country are now more abreast of what is going on here than the ones here who are busy chasing their own presidential slots or their own governorship ticket or senatorial ticket. So all of what we need to tell our people are already out there. The matters are running on YouTube, all the press conferences we've had, all the TV engagements. Last week, I came with 8 states of this kind of thing you are hearing now that have been done. I'm sure the AIT man will confirm that I was with Benga Rubena on Focus Nigeria 2 weeks ago. Channel TV, Riverbird, NTA, with this broken map on display. You understand? All of them have taken time to take this interview. There are people here are busy watching Man U and Arsenal, watching Nollywood and forgetting that their house is on fire. Because when the flood will come, it is from their ranks that it will swallow the 10 million people that will die. That's our projection. And we're saying that the media owes this an obligation to themselves, their families, and all of whatever they believe in, to do that interface between us and the rest of the people. You know where to find them. You know how to put this matter to their seat. And we challenge you to make the best of what you have here. There's YouTube, there's internet, there are physical papers that can be shared, there are flyers that are going around. I'm going back to radio today because those 8 videos have been syndicated by the local television stations in the eastern part. Because the ones in Lagos, the people in Lagos are a lot more conscious of this event. But those interviews, the kind of thing you are hearing now, NTA, all the state devices, TV stations are going to be running them in the coming days. So you join in that last place and let us see how we...
Since your broken map here,
Yes.
The prospective Lower Niger,
Yes.
I want you to... There are over 50 ethnic groups in this Lower Niger, and with a long history of acrimony. What have you done to make it possible for them to live under this abuse situation? And what other processes are still on to ensure that it is feasible to start with?
We have been at the conclusion in it. And I have here something you are all going to take away. This is the map of the Lower Niger. It's an 1885 map. The Joe were supposed to bring it in support of their own demand before the committee as to how they are going to conference. They just said before the British got here that we were living peacefully as coastal states. If you are talking about 60 ethnic nationalities, I hope they all have languages that cannot be understood by anyone else. The 60 are talking about. I hope nobody can understand any one of the 59 outside this, because if there is anybody who can understand, if you cannot conspire in my presence to kill me and I don't understand you, then we are of the same language. And if anybody has tried to turn the matter into something else, by the time Nigeria drops dead, every one of that people will have to decide what they do with their future from that point. Nobody will admit them automatically. We will insist they all have the right to self-determination so that they don't come saying that anybody compelled them. So what we have done in the last 15 years is to lay the matters bare before them to say, are we not better federating as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 language groups? That was the same. This was how they were living. We are going to get copies of this. He just put this forward, and the security Urobo, the Anang, the Ethic, the Igbo adopted it. That is the central demand they have before the presidential committee. That is what Femi Okoromu and Co have suppressed, because they know that the 3 million barrels of crude oil Nigeria sells every day to put itself on life support, because Nigeria died in 1967 when they attempted to revive it in Aburi sales. Was it not that because Nigeria collapsed that they went to Aburi to discuss? What was the outcome? They agreed on something, and Gowon came here, abandoned it, and started killing people all over the place. So the people who got killed have become wise, and they have banded together. All of those who are telling you you are for 60 languages, they are deceiving you. Do you share from their 500 million naira they take every quarter in your name as state and local government? All those creations of Nigeria by degrees in 1966, not one of them will stand. The owners of the land have worked out their salvation, and they are turning into a constitution that will go through referendum at the regional level. Nobody from outside the region will be involved in it. And that was the general agreement between the ethnic nationalities of this bloc, to say that they will finish the internal processes, document it, and then go to deal with other people in that commission. If that is prevented, there will be a country of 70 million people, and in 2-3 years they should be competing with the rest of the world on equal terms.
Please, we have to bring up the national network.
Yes.
Looking at everything, I can say that your body language points to the solution of the country. You never hear
It's not body language, it is our preference at this time that since we cannot discuss, we must discuss.
Okay.
We cannot discuss, we must discuss.
Okay. The president has said from what the media and everything said was that the solution is a no-go area. But you insist
The president did not say so.
no, you keep insisting that the president did not say so.
The president wrote down what he's been bamboozled by those who are in a conspiracy.
Okay, the matter
What
of
he said we are
interest.
going to hold on to is in print. What he said we are holding on to. They are going to do the opposite. And the internationalities on behalf of whom the president made the proclamation, standing on the superior platform of their sovereign will. The constitution is an inferior document. You know a company, let me cut you short. You know a company and this memo and article. First to incorporate themselves into a company, and then they start what they are going to be doing and how they will do that. In that order. It is after they've done that they now hire a management. At no point does it become the business of that hired management to tamper with the contents of the memo and article. What happened to Nigeria in 1966 was that the hired management, that is the government, the hiring process is called election every 4 years, but the supreme charter by which the enterprise is processed and maintained is the constitution, and it is the business of the owners of the enterprise. The Yoruba that will be a country of 55 million people has discussed with other people and now written down in form of a memo and article called constitution what will be done. It's after they've done all of that and created the enterprise that they now hire a management called government, having 3 arms, to go and do on their behalf what they have chosen to do. That is why the constitution is a document far above the legislature, because the legislature is only one arm of the higher management. Every 4 years, the owners of the enterprise change the management. They retain some, they remove some. But what happened in 1966 was that some people came with guns, toppled the constitution, and have been doing things by the prison there. And now telling us to our faces that we can no longer discuss the terms of our enterprise. The owners of the company can sit under a mango tree and dissolve their company. That's what they're telling them. We are going to dissolve that company of Nigeria if we cannot discuss how to restore the charter that brought us together. Because this one was not done by us. The one done by us has been thrown away by those who are carrying arms and who are still so many people in the land. One of us just goes about saying that he himself and Bagida and the Danjuma are prepared to lay down their lives. What do you think he's talking about? Between him and those 3 men, 4 sitting heads of state have been consumed. You all know what happened to Iran State between Danjuma and his friends. You all know what happened to Mother. Today is 13th February. Let everybody ask about Ojo where he was on the night of 12th February 1976. Mother Mohammed got consumed. We all know how Abaka went. We all know how Abiola died the day he was supposed to be released by Abaka. So these are men who are used to killing sitting heads of state, and they are holding us and telling Jonathan they are coming to kill him because they want to preside over Nigeria. It will not happen.
Okay.
One more to go.
I'm Joshua from Nigeria. Please, in a nutshell, we just want to get their message in the first line.
They can run in a coordinated way. Very important. Just summarize. Are we good to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sir.
Listen.
Please, that is behind you. Please, hold the press. 1, 2, 3, 4.
What the Lower Niger Congress and its associate organizations under the umbrella of Movement for New Nigeria is telling Nigeria today is that it is clear to us from the terms of reference the President gave to the Presidential Committee and the speech by which the President inaugurated that committee that he intends that the matters impeding the cohesion of Nigeria will be discussed at the conference. The modalities that have been rolled out now seem to be conspiring against that intention, and it is not acceptable to us. And we speak on behalf of the ethnic centralities that are the owners of Nigeria and who are today more eager to exit the Nigerian Union that has displaced them, except it is discussed. Second, the matter, a federation is a union of constitutions. Nigeria fell into the pit is in now because the constitution that defined it was toppled in 1966, and we went into uniformity that is now defined by one 1999 constitution. The thing we have to do if we want to rework our way
back to federalism is to first restore the constitutions that will federate, otherwise we'll be invading the heart of Nigeria from the roof. Therefore, the six nationalities want to first make out the constitutions by which they will federate. It is not the business of Sokoto or Kano to come to Abuja to see how the judge in Jekiri and Urobo discuss their problems of worry. It is in worry they will sit and discuss it. So that extent, that is what they insist on, a conference that is in two stages, so that the federating constitutions will be made out before the union constitution is made later. The matter of election, at the time the president has realized that we need to agree afresh for us to continue, he has called a conference, and while the conference is yet to be undertaken, election timetables have been rolled out by those who are eager to run to election and retain the old order. The ethnic nationalities are saying, and they have said it in writing before the committee when they went down, even though they suppressed that act, that they will not accept one more election under the current constitution. They insist that Nigeria should do exactly what South Africa did in 1990, to acknowledge that the apartheid constitution of Nigeria can no longer carry the society, to go into a transition in which period elections are suspended. It may not even take all of the 2 years. We don't require more than 6 months of serious business for us to, if we finish ahead of 2015, then we do an election based on that. That is where we are. But if anybody insists on carrying on to plan for election in 2015, he will soon discover that the owners of the quarters of the lands of Nigeria will not admit any further election under the current constitution in their area. I would think that if we look back at the history of how we got into the war of 1967, we will avoid loading an election on top of this unsettled constitutional situation.
And in addition to that, as it concerns the modalities, the insistence remains that we hold regional conferences where the various nationalities will resolve among themselves as to what they want and how they want to go about the charter, and then join the union subsequently, before we now come to discuss in the center how the center will be run. Because whatever we are discussing at the center or at the national conference should be how the center will be run. Because we are unbundling the exclusive powers that have been overwhelming the rest of the federation that is run from Abuja. So at the point where we are able to resolve among ourselves at the regional level, we're able to come up with a regional constitution and determine how that government should function, which should not be under the dictate of any man in the north or any other region outside of the particular and respective regions who have decided for themselves as to how they want to be governed. So the two-phase conferences should be adopted, where regions should resolve how they want to be governed, and then we go to the national conference where we will decide on the modalities to run the center. Those are the action plans.
And if these things do not happen, the various ethnic blocs are working out their way to leave the union forthwith.